built to win. Applied myself, I filled it in. No time for the doubt, they counted me out, I'm getting it in. Yeah. No time for no loss, I'm paying the cost, I'm in it to win. Yeah. Refuse. Mine, it can't be diffused. If you ain't thinking the same, then we playing by different rules. You can't see the vision, we living at different views. Until we complete the mission, keep getting up, never snooze. I walked a mile in my shoes, had the mind of a fool, chasing diamonds and jewels. Trust me, I was confused. Started minding my business and used my mind as a tool. Ended up finding my purpose and found the time to get to it. They told me I couldn't do it, they told me I couldn't make it. They sold it, they never break it. That's sadly mistaken. I need a piece of the pie, I want it so bad I can taste it. They told me like Toby, keep on running toes, they gon' take them. Refuse to lose, built to win. Applied myself, I filled it in. No time for the doubt, they counted me out, I'm getting it in. Yeah. No time for no loss, I pay for the cost, I'm winning to win. Yeah. Refuse to lose, I'm built to win. Applied myself, I filled it in. No time for the doubt, they counted me out, I'm getting it in. Yeah. No time for no loss, I'm paying the cost, I'm in it to win. Yeah. Refuse.
Welcome back to CTC. I'm your gracious host, Carl, and I'm back with another episode. And today is the start of the NCAA March Madness tournament and the NIT. So we will be giving you previews. We will be talking about all 8 NIT games first. And then we will be going over the 2 play-in games tonight for the NCAA March Madness tournament. Now, for those who don't know, these games do not count towards your bracket. You have until Thursday to lock your bracket. So these are just games to see who makes the round of 64, aka the second round, which I say the first. But hey, the second round of 64. Now, today's going to be a busy week. I mean, this week's going to be a busy week for your boy. We got 8 games and 2 for the NIT in the opening day of the tournament today. We got 8 games, and then the last 2 playing games for tomorrow. Then we got 16 games to go over in the tournament Thursday, and we got 16 games Friday. And then if you thought we was done, no, we got 8 games Saturday and 8 games Sunday. So it's going to be a busy week for your boy. But I'm ready for it. And with that being said, let's go ahead and start with the NIT for today. Now, first game, which starts in about 50 minutes. Oh, I don't know why my color didn't change. I'm sorry about that, y'all. First game starts in about 50 minutes. It is the George Mason or Liberty at George Mason NIT games. First few games are played on campus, so they will be at George Mason. This game is 6 o'clock on ESPN2. George Mason, the line actually moved in this game. So the game went from -5.5 to -3.5. So the line is moving for all those guys that like to, place a little wagers. I always have it on the ticker for y'all. But Liberty, they're led by Brett Decker Jr., who's averaging 16.8 points per game. Caden Matheny, who's averaging 13.4 points per game. And Zach Cleveland, averaging 11.8, 7.6 rebounds, 6.8 assists, 1.3 steals, and 1.3 blocks per game. Now, my X factor for the Liberty Flames is going to be Colin Porter. Colin Porter is a 3-point shooter, and he's a nice scorer. He's averaging double digits, averaging 11.4 points per game. And he's averaging 36% from 3. He can get hot, so that's my X factor for Liberty. Now, George Mason. George Mason is led by Corey Mincy, who's averaging 14.3 points per game, 3.5 rebounds, and 1 steal. Riley Allenspach, who's averaging 13.7 points per game and 6.1 rebounds. And Jakari Long, averaging 11.8 points per game and 4 assists per game. Now, my X factor, for George Mason is Masai Troutman, who's averaging 8.5 points per game. I think against this Liberty team, who could put up a ton of points, they're going to need contributions from all hands on deck. And I think Masai Troutman is going to be one of those guys to help with all hands on deck. Now, this game was hard for me to pick. And I'll tell you why. Both teams down the stretch of the season has been fumbling games. Liberty has fumbled games for sure. They even lost their first round of the tournament, losing to Missouri State. George Mason also fumbling games. George Mason started off really, really high. I believe they started off something like 20 and or something crazy. They rattled off a crazy number, but since then has not looked the same. Fell out of first place at a point in time. They were battling with St. Louis for first place at the A10. I want to say they fell all the way down to third in the A10. No, St. Joseph was actually third in the A10. My apologies. I want to say they fell far. I want to say it was like fourth or fifth as I try to bring it up, because St. Joseph actually moved up 2/3 of the way they were playing towards the end of the year. Fifth. They fell to fifth place. They were 23-9 at home. 17-2 at home. 4-5 on the road. They were, like I said, just stumbling, bumbling. So both teams have not looked great to end the year. So I kind of went with my gut. And when this matchup first was announced, or when I first seen the matchup, because the NIT wasn't really announced, they just dropped the bracket on Twitter or social medias, I should say. I kind of went with Liberty when I first saw this game. So this is just a gut pick. My gut told me Liberty when I saw this matchup. Again, both teams struggling down the stretch. So it's not like I can definitively pick one over the other. So my gut told me Liberty, and I feel perfectly fine going down with my gut. So I'm taking Liberty in this one. The battle of both teams who've been struggling down the stretch. I do think Liberty is a better offensive team than George Mason. I do think George Mason is a better defensive team than Liberty. But I will say Liberty did play well in the non-conference, so did George Mason. So that is kind of giving me hope that Liberty gets the dub. So I'm going to take the Flames of Liberty to win this ball game. Next, we have UNC Wilmington at Yale. Why is my ticker up there? Can I drag that down? I don't know why the ticker is on the bottom of me at the top all of a sudden. I accidentally hit something. That's why. All right, I think I got it fixed. Let's see. Yes. All right, I got it fixed. My apologies. UNC Wilmington at Yale. Yale is 4.5-point favorites in this ball game. This game is at 7:00 on ESPN Plus. I am actually kind of sad this game is on ESPN Plus, but they got so many games going on. You got the tournament game, who's obviously going to hold a spot. Excuse me. You got Liberty George Mason at ESPN2. You got another game 7:00 next at ESPNU. So and I think ESPN doesn't have basketball today. I think NBC still has basketball today. Yeah, NBC has basketball. I don't know. Maybe if there's a women's game on ESPN tonight, or I don't know what's on ESPN, but something is holding the ESPN, like the regular ESPN slot. So that's why they can't use it. I mean, I'm pretty sure because the WBC, I believe, is on Fox. So yes, it's on Fox. So something is carrying the women's basketball slot. No, women's basketball doesn't have anything today, tourney-wise, nor NIT-wise. I don't know what's on ESPN. Maybe they should have put this game on ESPN. But anyway, I digress. Let's get into the game. So UNC Wilmington, they did lose early in their conference tournament to Campbell. They lost by 15. Actually got blown out for real. Yale is a team I think that should be actually in the dance, but TJ Power had different things to say. Now, UNC Wilmington, they're led by Nolan Hodge, who's averaging 14.4 points per game, 4.5 rebounds. Patrick Wessler, the big 7-footer, averaging 13.8 points per game, 9.6 rebounds and 1 block. And Christian May, averaging 10.5 points per game, 5.5 rebounds. Their X factor to me is Greedy Williams, who's leading their team in assists with his ability to facilitate, and he's averaging 9.3 points per game to go along with that 4.2 assists. So if he can do some scoring while facilitating for UNC Wilmington, we may have an interesting ball game here. Now, Yale, they're led by Nick Townsend, which, by the way, I think on one of my previous episodes, I accidentally called Nick Townsend Nick Davidson. Nick Davidson actually plays for Clemson. Nick Townsend is the one for Yale. So I apologize for that. But Nick Townsend, who basically leads Yale in every statistical category, 16.4 points per game, 7.4 rebounds, 4.3 assists, and 1.1 steals. Isaac Seliskar, who's averaging 12.9 points per game and 6.1 rebounds. And Trevor Mullen, who not for nothing, did hit his free throws down the stretch. It's not like they went to overtime because he missed them. He made his free throws. TJ Power, again, just has other things to say. But Trevor Mullins averaging 11.7 points per game for the Yale Bulldogs. The X factor to me is going to be Samson Alatan, who averages 1.5 blocks per game with his paint defense. And I think he's going to have a little bit more uptick of minutes with, again, going against Patrick Wessler of UNC Wilmington. But ultimately, my winner for this is Yale. Like I said, Yale is a team that, to me, should be in the big dance. Very good offensively. Don't make many mistakes now. I think they made more mistakes than usual against UPenn. But Yale's a super good team, super efficient offensively. And when you got a go-to guy like Nick Townsend, who can not only score but create for others due to the ability of him to score down low, it helps Yale offense operate a little bit better. So I'm going to take Yale in this one. I think Nick Townsend leads the Bulldogs to a victory. So give me the Yale Bulldogs to beat UNC Wilmington at home. Next, shout out Coach Sundance Wicks. We have Wyoming at Wichita State. Wichita State went from 6.5 favorites when I originally got my banners done to 5.5 point favorites in this matchup. This game is on ESPNU at 7 o'clock. So it'll be on around the same time as Liberty, George Mason, UNC Wilmington, and Yale, and the round of 68 UMBC Howard, which we will talk about later. But Wyoming, they're led by Leland Walker, who's averaging 13.7 points per game and 3.7 assists. Nasir Meyer, who's averaging 12.8 points per game and 4.8 rebounds. And DeMarion Dennis, who's averaging 11 points per game. The X factor for Wyoming is Gavin Gores, who may play extended minutes. Again, they're going against another big in Will Berg, the transfer from Purdue. So I expect to see Gavin Gores play a little bit more minutes due to the fact they're playing against Will Berg. And now for Wichita State, they are led by Kenyon Giles, who's averaging 19.2 points per game and 1.7 steals. Karan Boyd, who's averaging 10.8 points per game and 5.9 rebounds. And again, the aforementioned Will Berg, who's averaging 8.8 points per game and 8.3 rebounds per game with 1.4 blocks per game. Now, the X factor to me for Wyoming is Michael Gray Jr., who's averaging 8.2 points per game. Now, I'm not saying that Wyoming is a high scoring team. They can put up some points, but Michael Gray averaging 8.2, I think, is a solid X factor for the Wichita State. Why did I forget what Wichita State mascot is? Shockers. There we go. The Shockers of Wichita State. But anyway, my winner in this one is going to be Wichita State. I do think Wichita State is a really talented American Athletic Conference team. I do think Wyoming can be talented at times. I do think Wyoming is a little bit inconsistent. I think I saw somewhere that Wyoming is 3-9 on the road, which is not great, especially going against a really good American Athletic Conference team. So give me Wichita State at home to beat the Wyoming Cowboys. And next, we have a battle of the A-10 and the Big 12, almost at the SEC. Davidson at Oklahoma State. This game is 8 o'clock on ESPN2, so right after Liberty George Mason. Oklahoma State went from 8.5 point favorites to 6.5 point favorites. Oklahoma State, I think they were starting to play a good brand of basketball down the stretch. Now, I will say Oklahoma State had some games, BYU, for example, where they ball for sure. But even the TCU game, they fought their way back in that one. So I would say down the stretch of the year, Oklahoma State did look better. Davidson had some decent games. They did lose to Temple, which I don't think Temple is a bad loss, but they did lose to Temple. I don't think Davidson was a bad team. I don't think that. I think they were a okay to solid A-10 team. But without further ado, Davidson, they're led by Robert Blums off the bench. Robert Blums is averaging 12.1 points per game off the bench for the Davidson Wildcats. Josh Scovins, who's averaging 11.1 points per game and 4.3 rebounds. And Parker Fredrickson, who's averaging 10.6 points per game and 1.1 steals per game. The X factor to me is going to be Sam Brown, who's averaging 8 points per game, because he does have some double-digit performances. And I think this is going to be one of the games where he's going to need a double-digit performance in order to help Davidson pull off the upset against Oklahoma State, at least gambling wise, because they are the dogs. Now, Oklahoma State, they are led by Anthony Roy. And I love Anthony Roy game. He had a big game against BYU. Anthony Roy is averaging 17.2 points per game, 4.1 rebounds. Victorious Miller averaging 10.9 points per game and 1.1 steal. And Jalen Curry averaging 10.3 points per game, 3.6 assists, and 1.3 steals per game. Now, their X factor to me is going to be Kanye Clary. Kanye Clary, the transfer from Penn State. He's a guy who can get to the cup and attack the basket. So he's averaging 10.1 points per game. So it's just scoring ability and ability to attack the basket. It's going to be big for me. But ultimately, my winner is Oklahoma State, man. Like I said, Oklahoma State had some big wins down the stretch. There's some games where they were in it. Like, again, the TCU game went to overtime. Now, they were at home in that matchup, but they're going to be at home in this matchup. So I do like them in this matchup. Davidson, I don't think Davidson is a strong enough team to contend with Oklahoma State, to be honest. Davidson can definitely shoot the three ball very well, and that could keep them in the game. But you know how it is with the three ball. You can live and die with the three ball. While Oklahoma State, they got guys that can take the basket, and they got guys like Jalen Curry and Anthony Roy who can also shoot the three ball. So Davidson's going to have to hit the three ball at a high rate to stay in this game. And I don't know if I can see that happening against this Big 12 Oklahoma State team. So I'm going to take Oklahoma State in this matchup. Again, you got Oklahoma State, who beat UCF down the stretch, beat Colorado down the stretch, lost to TCU, but again, TCU was hot. This was in the tournament, so that was not the overtime game. Overtime TCU game, they lost by 3. They beat West Virginia down the stretch, so they got some good wins down the stretch. So give me Oklahoma State in this matchup. Next, we have Stephen F. Austin at Tulsa. Tulsa is another good American Athletic Conference team. I think they finished 3rd in the conference behind Wichita State. While Stephen F. Austin was a really good Southland Conference team, finished 1st in the conference. Unfortunately, they got blitzed by McNeese in the Southland Conference Championship game, and that's why they're in the NIT and not the Big Dance. But it's nothing wrong by getting blitzed by McNeese. McNeese is a really good team. I might be taking that McNeese plus 11.5 I think they play Friday, but when they play Vanderbilt, nonetheless. So they're a really good team. Tulsa finished 2nd, actually, they tied with Wichita State. So I think they gave Wichita State the 2nd seed and gave Tulsa the 3rd seed, but they tied in conference. But anyway, Stephen F. Austin is led by Keon Thompson. Keon Thompson is averaging 18.2 points per game, 4.8 rebounds, 4.4 assists, and 1.1 steals. Lateef Patrick averaging 15.3 points per game and 1.5 steals. And Gerald Colonel averaging 5 points per game, but 7.4 rebounds leading the team and 2.5 blocks also leading the team per game. Their X factor to me is going to be Narek Čekanović. He's averaging 9.3 points per game. They're going to have to score the rock. The big reason why they lost to McNeese in the championship game is because they could not score the rock against this McNeese defense. Do I think Tulsa plays defense as good as McNeese? No. But Stephen F. Austin is going to have to score the ball. Now, Tulsa, they're led by David Green, averaging 16.1 points per game, 4.5 rebounds per game. Tylen Riles, averaging 15.1 points per game, 3.9 rebounds, and 4.3 assists. And Miles Barnstable, averaging 14.6 points per game, 3.8 rebounds per game. Now, the X factor is going to be Ade Popular, helping rebound. He's averaging 4.2 rebounds and 10.3 points per game, so he's going to have to help scoring as well. But I ultimately went with Tulsa because Tulsa just has more guys scoring the basketball than Stephen F. Austin. Stephen F. Austin gets a lot of their production from Keon Thompson and Lateef Patrick, while Tulsa has 4 guys in double digits. So I'm going to roll with Tulsa as the better offensive team. Stephen F. Austin is a pretty solid defensive team. I don't know how well they will affect Tulsa in terms of winning the game. I did take Stephen F. Austin and the points, however, because I do think Stephen F. Austin has a chance to win it, but I think Tulsa will win it. And I think Stephen F. Austin can keep it within the 6.5 points. Given now it was 7.5 when I did my banners this morning, that changed. It dropped the points, so it seems like the public is on Stephen F. Austin plus the points, but I have Tulsa winning the actual ball game. And we'll move on to the Tommies, St. Thomas of Minnesota. Seattle University, 10 o'clock on ESPN Plus. Now, if you've been watching CTC, you know I've been watching Seattle University for a while. I've been watching them since Darion Trammell, which I'm saying it's since it's long ago. It's not that long ago. It's probably like 4 years ago. But still, when they had Darion Trammell, then they had Darion Trammell and Cam Tyson. So I've been watching them for a while. I can't remember the strong big they had. He was like 6'6", but he could pass the ball. He was he was strong, really good defensively. I can't remember his name though, but he was really good. He was really good for his role. But anyway, the Tommies, they are actually dogs in this one. They are 1.5-point dogs on the road. This game is 10 o'clock on ESPN Plus. But the Tommies are led by Nolan Minicelli, who's averaging 20 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, and 4.4 assists with 1.6 steals per game. Nick Janowski, who's averaging 16.3 points per game, 5.1 rebounds per game, and Isaiah Johnson Aregu, who's averaging 10.5 points per game and 4 rebounds per game. Their X factor to me is going to be Austin Hero. While Austin Hero shot like trash in the Summit League semifinal against North Dakota, he did do a good job playmaking. And unfortunately, until the end of the game where he threw the ball away, that led to North Dakota hitting the free throw to win the game. But he is a good playmaker, and I think his playmaking ability will be big against Seattle. He's averaging 3.6 assists per game, which I believe is leading the team. So Austin Hero is my X factor for the Tommies. Now, Seattle, they're led by Braden Maldonado. Braden Maldonado is averaging 14.4 points per game, 1.4 steals per game. Will Humboldt, who's averaging 12.3 points per game and 5.3 rebounds, 1.3 steals. And Jung-Suk Yao, who's averaging 11.9 points per game and 4 rebounds per game. He had a big first half against Pacific, but they ultimately lost that game to Pacific. Their X factors with me is going to be Malik Arrington and his playmaking ability. He's got 129 assists on the year. He's the starter. He's averaging about 3-4 assists in that range per game. But the playmakers of both teams are going to be the X factors to me, especially with I'll just say this. But my winner, taking the upset. They were 2.5-point dogs when I originally picked them this morning. Now they're 1.5-point dogs, but they're still dogs. And I'm taking St. Thomas. I'm taking the Tommies and St. Thomas to upset Seattle on the road. Why? Because I think Seattle offense does get stagnant. Wow. I don't think St. Thomas's offense gets too stagnant at times. But Seattle, I didn't watch Seattle offense get stagnant a bit, especially in that Pacific game. They couldn't get anything done. Now, like I said, Jung-Suk Yao, he did have a great first half. Second half, not so much. Braden Maldonado, he tried to will him to a win, hit a 3 late, but ultimately could not get it done. I think they had a big turnover late in that ball game as well. But I just trust the Tommies offense more than I trust Seattle's offense, the Red Hawks. So give me the Tommies to upset Seattle in this one. And next, we have South Alabama at Auburn. First of all, shout out Auburn for not declining the invitation to the NIT. Unlike some guys like Indiana, I believe Oklahoma turned it down, I think, which is crazy if they did, to then accept the college basketball crown tournament invitation. Don't get that. But I think San Diego State turned it down. So shout out Auburn for accepting the invite. Still didn't deserve to get in the tournament, though. I respect this, but you didn't deserve to get in. But anyway, South Alabama, they're led by, South Alabama takes on Auburn at Auburn. Auburn is 17.5-point favorites in this matchup. This game is 10 o'clock on ESPN2. South Alabama is led by Chase Harris. Chase Harris is averaging 18.9 points per game, 4.7 rebounds, 4.9 assists, and 1.7 steals. There's Adam Olsen, who's averaging 16.7 points per game, 4.1 rebounds, and 1 steal. And Jaden Cooper is averaging 11.3 points per game and 1.1 steals per game. Now, their X factor to me is going to be Randy Brady, helping to rebound. He's averaging 5.8 boards per game. He's going to have to help rebound against I won't say Auburn has super size. They don't. Keyshawn Hall and Keyshawn Murphy is their 2 best rebounders, but still got to help rebound by committee for South Alabama. Auburn is led by Keyshawn Hall. Keyshawn Hall is averaging 19.8 points per game and 6.7 rebounds. Tahad Pettiford is averaging 15.5 points per game, 3.1 assists, and 1.1 steals. And Kevin Overton, who's averaging 13.4 points per game and 1.2 steals per game. Now, the X factor to me is going to be Keyshawn Murphy. Keyshawn Murphy is their leading rebounder, averaging 6.8 boards per game. So he's definitely going to have the board, get on the glass as he usually does. But he actually has to add some points in the game as well, averaging 10.7 points per game. He's got to be able to get to the basket, finish at the rim, things like that. So I think he's the X factor for Auburn in most games that they play, including this one. But I'm ultimately taking Auburn. I'm taking Auburn in this one. First of all, I would like to say that Auburn did play bad down the stretch. But, and this is no knock to South Alabama, I just think Auburn is significantly better. Tahad Pettiford and Keyshawn Hall as a duo is better than what South Alabama has to bring to the table. Plus, they feel like I would think they have something to prove. Like, all right, we're going to show y'all we deserve to be in the tournament. We're going to win this NIT to show y'all, hey, man, we should have been in that tournament. So I think that they come out swinging. I don't know if they covered it 17.5. That's kind of crazy. I'm not touching that. But 17.5 is a ton of points. But I am taking Auburn to win this matchup at home against South Alabama. And the last NIT game, we have the UNLV Running Rebels taking on the UC Irvine Anteaters. Now, the Anteaters lost in the Big West, excuse me. I was about to say WCC. That is wrong. The Big West Tournament Championship game to Hawaii. UNLV they lost to Utah State in the Mountain West, but I mean, they had to win it all in the Mountain West Conference Tournament to even be in the big dance. They dropped way too many games. Now, UNLV they were 3.5-point dogs against UC Irvine. Is now a 1.5-point dog against UC Irvine. This game is 11 o'clock on ESPNU. So a late night tip off for guys like me is exciting. But UNLV, they're led by Dre Gibbs Lawhorn, the transfer from Illinois. Dre Gibbs Lawhorn is averaging 20.7 points per game and 1.5 steals. Kamani Hamilton's averaging 12.9 points per game, 4.9 rebounds, and 1 steal. And Tyron Jones is averaging 11.6 points per game, 4.9 rebounds, 1 steal, and 2.1 blocks. Now, their factor to me, X factor to me is going to be Howie Fleming. Howie Fleming, when he tends to play well, UNLV has a better chance of winning the game. He's averaging sorry, I just got a text message that was kind of crazy. 6.3 rebounds per game. It's kind of important, but I'll do it after the show. He's averaging 6.3 rebounds per game. And when he plays well, UNLV typically, if not had the chance to win it, is going to win. Now, UC Irvine, they're led by Jurian Dixon, who's averaging 16 points per game, 3.6 rebounds, and 1.1 steals per game. Kyle Evans averaging 12.1 points per game, 8.5 rebounds, and 3.3 blocks per game, which is incredible. And Andre Henry, who's averaging 10.1 points per game. Now, their X factor to me is Darren Saran, who's averaging 11.3 points per game and 5.4 rebounds. He's going to have to help Kyle Evans rebound against this UNLV team, who's very active. But my winner, I'm going with Josh Pastner. I am going with the UNLV Running Rebels with the upset on the road against UC Irvine. I do think they have been playing inspired basketball down the stretch. Now, they did get blown out by Utah State in the tournament, but Utah State actually ended up winning the tournament, and they're a really good team. I had them winning the tournament from when that season was over. I think Utah State was clearly the best team in that conference, which was a part of the reason why I had them winning. And I think UNLV did actually beat Utah State by double digits, I think by 20 plus for what it's worth in the regular season. So they have shown capabilities to play good teams and win ball games. So I think that this UC Irvine team is a good team. Jurian Dixon is a great scorer, actually. Andre Henry can score the ball. Cal Evans is a presence at times down low. Now, sometimes it doesn't look as great, but I think he is a presence down low. So this is no slouch of a team. I just think I trust Josh Pastner as a coach. I love Josh Pastner as a coach, to be honest. And this Running Rebel team, they can play inspired. So I think they get the dub tonight as a dog. And that is all for the NIT. We move on to the round of 68 for today only in the NCAA March Madness tournament. And we have the battle of the Beltway, the Yos versus the Mo's. Whatever you want to say, DMV versus Baltimore, because, they don't really consider themselves to be a part of the DMV. DMV really doesn't consider Baltimore to be a part of it either. So it's always a little friendly rivalry, sibling rivalry, whatever you want to call it. But UMBC is 1.5-point favorites against Howard 640 on True TV. Now, this is a battle of the guards. Point blank, period. This game is a battle of the guards. And UMBC, they are led by Jalakai King, averaging 13.9 points per game. DJ Armstrong, who went nuclear against Vermont, averaging 13.2 points per game. And Ace Valentine, averaging 12 points per game, 4.1 rebounds, and 4 assists for the Golden Retrievers. Their X factor to me is going to be Josh Undunowu, helping to rebound by committee with the UMBC Golden Retrievers. He's averaging 5.2 rebounds per game. He's going to have to be active on the glass for them. But speaking of committee, Howard is a team that has like 4 or 5 players averaging over a steal a game, which is very dangerous to play against. Howard is led by Cedric Taylor, who's averaging 17.1 points per game, 6.7 rebounds, 1.5 steals, and 1.3 blocks. Bryce Harris, who's averaging 17.1 points per game, 6.9 rebounds, 1.2 steals, and 1.1 blocks. Cam Gillis, 10.6 points per game, 4.3 rebounds, 4.6 assists, and 1.8 steals per game. Now, that X factor to me is going to be Alex Cotton, and his three-point shooting ability shot over 100%. That's over 100%. Oh, Lord. Shot over 100 threes, averaging 37.3% from the three-point line. So his three-point shooting ability can be dangerous for the Howard Bison. But ultimately, my gut told me UMBC. Last time UMBC was in the tournament, they upset a 1 seed. Now obviously different regimes. Funny enough, the coach of UMBC at the time, when they upset Virginia as a 1 seed, is now the Virginia head coach. But I'm going to take UMBC, man. My gut, like I said, my gut told me this is going to be a really fun, exciting game. I could see it being real fast paced at a point, but I ultimately lean UMBC just because I think they can. They show their resiliency. They show that they can battle back in the face of adversity. Howard dominated the MEAC, and there's nothing wrong with that. I actually love it for them. They've been in the tournament 3 of the last 4 seasons. But like I said, man, either team could win this. Don't get me wrong. That's why the line is so close. You can make an argument that Howard has more hands on deck in terms of scoring, having 4 guys with double-digit points. But I ultimately went UMBC in this matchup. My gut really told me UMBC. Watching both games, try to see it play out. I'm rolling with UMBC in this matchup. Next, now this is a game that I have picked like literally before I got on the airways, but I still don't know who's going to win this game. And that's Texas and NC State. And I can only tell y'all the truth, man. Even the game line switch. Texas this morning was the 1.5 point favorite. Now it switched to NC State being a 1.5 point favorite. So even Vegas, they don't know who's going to win this game. And I'm just a human, so don't blame me. This is a real toss-up. Both of these games in this first round are toss-ups, in my opinion. So this game is 30 minutes after the UMBC Howard game. So it's listed at 9:15, but again, 30 minutes after the final buzzer of UMBC Howard. NC State, they are led by Darion Williams, who's averaging 13.8 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, and 1.1 steals. Quadar Copeland, averaging 13.9 points per game, 3.5 rebounds, 6.6 assists, and 1.7 steals. And Van Allen Lubin, averaging 13.9 points per game, 7.2 rebounds per game. Now, the X factor to me is going to be Paul McNeil. Now, Paul McNeil is now worked his way to a lead scorer for NC State, averaging 13.9 points per game. But his three-point shooting is incredible, shooting it at 42.9% from the three-point line. If he gets hot, he can get very dangerous for Texas. Now, Texas, they are led by SEC newcomer of the year, Dallin Swain, averaging 17.8 points per game, 7.6 rebounds, and 1.7 steals per game. Matas Vakiatis, and I know I butchered that. I'm so sorry, Matas. He's averaging 15.5 points per game and 6.8 rebounds. And Tremont Mark, who I loved at Arkansas and at he was somewhere else too. Me and Tilo was just talking about Tremont Mark yesterday. I can't remember. But I know he was at Arkansas as well. But he's averaging 13.5 points per game. Now, the X factor to me, and he was a big reason why they beat NC State early in the year, is Jordan Pope. And that first game he played, he scored 28. He's averaging 13.3 points per game. He's a bucket. So his scoring ability is going to be a huge X factor for me in this one. But I tend to lean on revenge factor. And NC State, like I said, lost by 5 in this matchup early in November. And Texas shot it like 50% from 3. which NC State is a good 3-point shooting team as well. And I'm rolling with NC State. I think that's my final answer, man. I'm going with NC State with the revenge factor. Now, both teams down the stretch of the season, just like George Mason and Liberty, have been bad. They actually almost played their way out of the tournament, both of them. They were lucky to be here. Like I said, they both almost played their ways out of the tournament. But ultimately, man, I'm going with the revenge factor. Will Wade as a coach. I know Sean Miller is a good coach as well, but Sean Miller does tend to underperform. I'm going to roll with NC State. And I will say this, different regime. I think this was Rodney Terry at the time with Texas. But last time I seen Texas in the tournament, they had a big lead and blew it to Xavier. So might be a little scar from that. Again, that was not Sean Miller at Texas. I believe that was Rodney Terry. But I'm rolling with the revenge factor, and I'm going with NC State. Now, that is the last game I have for y'all today. I will be back tomorrow around the same time to talk about the same thing. The last 8 NIT games for tomorrow and the last 2 round of 68 games for the tournament. So appreciate everybody for tuning in, like, commenting, and subscribing. If you're wondering why my name is Carl Shining, it's a play off the one shining moment. So that's why it's that. I'm not on no cocky nothing like that. But and don't forget, man, but don't forget, brackets locked Thursday at noon. So get your brackets in. I saw Halliburton say something, and I've been feeling this way for a while. Hey, man, make one bracket and stand on it. Now, a lot of people may like to make 30 brackets and be like, oh, I called an upset, and they'll show one bracket, and then the other joint that had another team winning. Like, bruh, I've never done multiple brackets. I make one, and it's from every bracket challenge. Well, not every, because I've only been in 2. I think last year I was in 2, which I think I was in 2 by accident. But don't ask me by accident. It just happened. I was only supposed to be in 1, and that was the R2L group. But anyway, make one, stand on it. I do like that. But I'll be back tomorrow with more tournament coverage. Like I said, I'll be here all week, man. I'll have an episode every day. Now to do some house cleaning. But again, like, comment, share, subscribe. It helps the channel, it helps the network. Speaking of the network, we have the main show featuring Joe, Tomo, and Dave Mondays and Thursdays between 7 and 8:30-ish. So make sure y'all check them out. Went live yesterday. I had my little college basketball segment on there. Make sure you check it out. I actually also had a basketball bracket talk with my boy Tilo, which turned into an interview. I promise you, it's long, but I promise you most of it is bracket talk, and then it turned into like a 40-minute interview. But make sure you check that out as well as my Selection Sunday show, which was obviously during Selection Sunday. Next, we have Unfazed featuring Joe and AJ. Catch them when you can. It will be at night. They normally, well, I can't even say normally. They go live at night whenever they just subscribe so you know when they go live. Next, we have BWT. The final game of the World Baseball Classic is tonight at 8 o'clock. Tonight at 8 o'clock, we have USA. Shout out to USA. I told y'all, man, if USA won, we lit. You know, I black, I know Dominican Papi. But if Dominican won, I know black, I'm Dominican Papi. Even though I have no Dominican in my family at all. I just thought it was funny as a joke. Anyway, they take on Venezuela in the finals. I thought it'd be Italy, but somebody messed up that gabagool. So it's Venezuela versus USA. And make sure Teddy actually dropped the episode recapping the semifinals. And I'm pretty sure he had something crazy to say about Juan Soto. Next, we have FFC, Fantasy Football with Coach Coombs. Again, obviously, fantasy football season's over. Football season's over. The UFL is about to start, and I will be tuned in. But make sure you tune in for, content that he drops. We have RBO, Real Ballers Only, featuring Vaughn. Playoffs are around the corner. My Pistons will drop a game still. But make sure you tune into Vaughn for episodes about the NBA. Dave's Doghouse, highlights and lowlights of sport. We have In the Red Corner featuring Tyreke and Tomo, boxing episodes for all your boxing needs. They go live on Sunday. Not every Sunday, but when they do go live, it is on Sundays around 6:30. And last but not least, we have Zero Sports Talk with Griffey, which I believe are going to be pre-recorded episodes. So just be on the lookout for when those drop. And that's all the shows we have on the network. So please like, comment, share, subscribe to the shows on the network. So it helps the channel as well. And if you like what you're listening to, stick with us. But like I said, that's all I got for y'all today. And until tomorrow, I'm gone. Peace.
Thank you for staying to the end. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like this video, subscribe, and also hit that notification button so you can be notified next time we put out a video. If you're listening on any podcast platform, subscribe and hit that notification button, y'all, so you can be notified we put out another podcast audio. And last but not least, hit that share button. No matter what you're listening to or watching it, hit that share button and send it to somebody that you know that would love to watch this episode you just listened to. So once again, thank you for staying to the end, and we'll see y'all in the next episode.